Hey guys, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. A new experiment today. I am actually going live on Instagram and TikTok at the same time. And I know there are apps that can actually do it for you, multiple channel streaming, but I'm just using two different devices for now and we're gonna see how that goes. All right, so today what I'm making is essentially, it's a pretty basic soup. And thank you Superwell for allowing this package. It's basically a detox soup. So what detox soup typically means in traditional Chinese medicine is really dispelling water, dispelling toxins, dispelling dampness. And so lately in Toronto, at least, it's been raining a lot and it's been pretty humid. So people in humid conditions, when it rains a lot, this is a great soup for you. And so this detox soup, essentially, let's talk about soup design really quickly. So when I'm thinking detox, I'm thinking dispelling dampness. So any herbs that help push away dampness, that help you urinate or pee, that's what we're looking for. And so as a base, that already sets that it's gonna be a little more cooling. And so in my mind, detox tends to pair beans, barley, any of those type of ingredients pair well with melons. And so when you're thinking about what kind of soup to make and how to go about it, and you want to detox, let's say, you start with your herbal base first, because that's really the anchor piece on how you're going to pair your meats, your veggies, and your roots with it. And so right now I'm thinking, all right, we're going to do detox. So there's a lot of beans in this package, right? We've got red beans, hyacinth beans. I'm going to add some barley, and that's going to make it very diuretic. What pairs with this? Melons. And so either melons or roots are the best. So what we're looking at is winter melons. You could do lotus roots, arrowroots. At the supermarket though, I've got a fuzzy melon. And I tried to look for it exactly. In Cantonese, it's actually called zi gua, which is the fuzzy melon. And because I washed it, but you'll feel like it's got a skin that's actually quite prickly. And so melons go great with detox soups. And so what you want to do detox is really get rid of the water, get rid of the dampness, and that's going to help. The other thing that's really great, and I'm going to share this, I'm not using it today, is, I know it's kind of weird, is actually to save this corn silk. And corn silk in traditional Chinese medicine is actually amazing as a diuretic. It's really good. So I'm going to use it and preserve this for a tea that's going to help dispel dampness. And so just for those, this piece I'm going to cut off, but for people who are using corn, don't throw this away, right? It's actually quite valuable. You can dry it or use it fresh, up to you. But this, and it's quite interesting because I've only learned this when I went to Hong Kong, and they were selling this individually. And I was like, well, from the West, we actually just throw it out, right? And so this is quite neat. So what I'm going to do is preserve this. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Cut off this part that's a little more muddy, but the rest that's clean, you can dry and use in teas. And actually, I'm going to make a post about a dampness tea that I've been drinking lately. And the reason for that is I went to do cupping. You can't really see it. So at my own traditional Chinese doctor, and when you do cupping or scraping, and if the blood comes to the surface right away, it's an indication that you're too damp within. And so this is something that I've been practicing lately, is just to make detox soups. All right, so for those joining, I'm doing a detox soup right now. It's quite simple. It's gonna all go into one pot, into my thermal pot, which I will explain. So let's open the pack and let me just quickly explain what the ingredients are. And actually you can build your own if you're able to find the ingredients, or buy pre-packs like this, which are great. So I'm only doing one pack. There's 2 packs in one of these packets, but it's gonna be for a family of 4. And so I think I'm gonna do just 1 bowl each. I do traditionally do a giant pot that can serve 6 or 8, but today I'm feeling that I'm not gonna do too much. And so in this package, I'm gonna open it and just show you what the ingredients are. Actually, maybe it might be both. Yeah, it might be both packs. All right, hold on one second. It's really hard to do this while going live. All right, so the ingredients here, and I will talk through them, and I'm gonna actually add some more ingredients as well, just to explain. So if we're doing a detox soup, let me explain the herbal base first. So the herbal base is where you start with as your anchor. Then you think what meat matches, and then what roots or veggies match. So basically for detox soups, you're looking at beans. So these are your white hyacinth beans like this. They're quite large. okay, I don't know which camera to go to. So for those, I'm actually gone live on TikTok and Instagram. I'm just testing it. I know it's kind of interesting. So beans, any type of beans, red beans, green beans, there are red beans here as well. They're really quite small like this. So red beans, black beans, white beans, green beans, mung beans, all work. Go have a go at your beans, whatever you like. The other thing that's really useful for detox and dispelling water. So when we say detox from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, it's really getting rid of water, toxins in the body. So what you essentially want to do is like pee more, sweat more, right? That's really what it means. And so the other great ingredient is barley. And so this one, I've got raw pearl barley, which my daughter loves, and I'm going to add this to the soup as well. So the beans are your detoxes. The other great thing that if you're thinking Chinese soups and you're not sure how to use it, Chinese yam. And so it comes fresh and dried, looks like this, dried. And the idea is that they're neutral. So Chinese yam can go with warm or cooling soups, your choice. However, yams are actually really, really good for strengthening qi, which is kind of like our life force or our energy. So if you're feeling weak, down, fatigue, this is a great recipe or a great ingredient to use in any soup, and even herbal teas if you'd like. All right, the other thing that's in here is, let me try to look, dried octopus, and they're tiny. However, if you go to like the Asian supermarkets in Hong Kong and the wet market, you'll find them in like big slabs. So they've actually been dried whole. So dried octopus is actually a neat protein right here that you can add to soups that's got a lot of nice flavor. They tend to be a little more cooling as a protein. Things that are very similar, dried scallops, dried shrimp, all produce the same flavor profile. But again, your choice. If you're going vegetarian, replace this with mushrooms. The other thing that we've got here is honey dates, just one of these, and then black dates, which are a little bit warming, similar to the red dates. And then Tash has added pea proteins, like they look like this, which is essentially just kind of like dried tofu. And it's for people who want more protein in their soups, if you don't want to put meats. And so really quickly, this is what we've got as a soup base out of these soup packs from Superwell, who've kindly gave me some, and I love her for it. All right, so let's talk about the rest. So I'm today gonna add fuzzy melon. I'll show you how to do that. I'm gonna add corn just for flavoring, but I'm gonna preserve the corn silk, and they're kind of falling out now, so I'm going to get a plate and save that. All right, so I talked about corn silk, right? And how you can just save this. So for those who are curious, and I would suggest like the parts that are a little bit dirtier, I'm going to remove. But corn silk actually has a lot of value. Who knew? And so what I do is I don't rip the corn skin anymore now when I'm at the supermarket, because sometimes you do and you put it in a bin. Actually, I take the whole thing and I actually come home and I rip it at home, and I'm preserving all this stuff at the top right here. And what corn silk is really good for is it's a fantastic diuretic in that it helps dispel dampness. So if you're feeling really humid, and one way that you'll know, am I feeling humid, is hi Peggy. Oh my god, amazing that you can join and that you're still up. Peggy's my friend from Hong Kong. And so the corn silk is actually really good if you're dispelling dampness. And a great tip to see if you're damp, and again, you might need to get someone to do it on you, is scraping. So if you use a spoon, a metal spoon, or a scraper in Chinese, and you scrape just up your back, if it starts to get red right away, so the blood and the blood vessels come to the top, it is an indication of dampness in your body. Of course, there are other signs too, like your tongue, your pulse, how weak that is. But that's just a really simple way to test, am I feeling damp? And damp is not the same as like sweating, right? Damp is actually internal dampness within. And usually internal dampness comes with internal heat. They are paired together, which is why a lot of damp dispelling soups are more cooling. All right, so the corn, I just kind of peeled all the stuff off. Save the corn silk. I'm not gonna use it today in the soup. I'm going to dry it and use it in a tea, which I've actually made it for a few days already, and I will post that. And so yeah, preserve the corn silk, very valuable. And people use it for cooling teas. In Hong Kong, they actually also make it as part of like herbal teas, which are quite neat. Okay, so I'm gonna save that. And then last ingredient is your protein, pork. So cooler soups tend to use more pork. Warming soups tend to use more chicken. Although some soups tend to have both. So double boil soups in Cantonese recipes actually have both pork and chicken. So they'll have a pork shank in the chicken soup. So today I'm probably going to only use half of this. What I do is very often economies of scale. And I know a lot of people do ask me, they're like, well, it takes so much work to make Chinese soups. Yeah, it does. It takes a lot of work sometimes to prep and clean. And so if you're gonna do it in bulk, what I will do is today, I've got cold water on the stove right now. I'm going to actually boil all of this and then save half frozen in the freezer. So it's already blanched. So next time I'm gonna make a soup, it's really easy then. What you do is just take it out of the freezer and drop it in. So this is something you can consider doing things in bulk. And very often I do a lot of things in bulk. All right, let's talk more pressure cook. I'm hungry. Okay, yeah, pressure cooking. Okay, so today I'm not doing any type of advanced time cooking. So that means either pressure cooker or Instapot. And I do get this question a lot. Bicycle. Joke of the day from That's Me is, how does a flower ride a bicycle? You can answer that later. So what I'm going to do is show you how to blanch really quickly. And so to blanch, what's really useful is start with a pot of cold water. And there is a debate about whether you blanch in cold or hot water. I tend to blanch in cold water, and there's a reason why. When you put things in cold water, what happens is that everything is able to dissolve out into the water first. And so the blood, the bones, anything water soluble is able to dissolve out first, and then it heats up and then boils. If you put it in boiling water, what happens is that it flash boils, and then all the stuff just remains inside. Again, whether you boil in cold water or hot water, it's completely up to you. So what I'm gonna do now is, this pot has got cold water. I'm gonna turn this on and add my pork bones. All right, so again, 1 second while I do this. All right, I'm just gonna use my hands here, but I am going to boil all of it and actually only use half for the soup. So economies of scale, flash boil, blanch everything, and then take out half, and then I will freeze and wrap the rest. All right, so that's going in here, and I gotta move this one so you can see me more. Sorry, this is a TikTok one, and that's the Instagram one. The other thing is, you can salt your water right there. And for those who don't know, salt in water actually reduces the boiling point of water. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. If you add salt, it reduces it, and so that it just boils faster. Okay, let me drop this in. Okay, there's a lot of pork bones here. Oops. Okay, and there's a question that I do get sometimes, like, do you wash your pork bones? Hold on, let me wash my hands. So, you can wash your pork bones if you'd like ahead of time, but because I'm blanching it anyways, for me, it doesn't matter. What I do is actually rinse it afterwards, and therefore that's kind of like the washing process. Okay, so that's that. Let me get organized. And so for me, it's about timing and sequence, and that's how kind of you always wash your meats. Okay, yep, I agree with that, 10 except chicken breast. But for this, because I'm blanching it in the boiling water, what I do is I actually rinse it afterwards. So I'm gonna pour out the water and then rinse the bones a few times. And so this gets rid of all the debris, the fat, but the boiling essentially should kill off any bacteria. All right, sorry, I missed the question. Aren't you using it for stock? Yes. The pork bones are going to be for stock. And so what happens though, the blanching process is actually to remove the blood, the bones, the bits, get it cleaned, and the foam. And so people who actually make Chinese soups, if you're using pork bones more, especially pieces with more marrow and bones, it's going to have a lot of foam. And it's like brown foam that bubbles to the top. So you can either scoop it off afterwards or scoop it out now during your pre-blanch. And that's why I do blanch first, pork bones. But again, completely up to you. Some people don't blanch. All right, then you have to sift. Yeah, exactly, right? So the point is like the foam, I get rid of the foam first in the soup, and then what I'll do is transfer this into my soup pot. Let me explain the soup pot. So yes, for those asking, I do blanch to remove the impurities and the foam. I don't like the foam in my soup, but again, your choice whether you throw it in or not. All right, I get a lot of questions about the pot. And so this is one method of cooking, completely your choice on what pots you use. The only exception is the double boil, which is different equipment. So the double boil is actually a small pot inside a big pot. And you put the soup in the small pot and you put water on the big pot, and the big pot kind of boils gently the inner pot. But other than that, and the pressure cooker and Instant Pot are the two ones that I'm not going to talk about today. But this is the thermal pot. And so for those who are curious, I get this question a lot about the thermal pot. The thermal pot is actually, let me open it for you. It's actually a pot. This is a soup pot. Inside and insulated, and the insulation is right here. There's a bit of space that retains heat. And so by design, this device is energyless. It doesn't use electricity. It uses more conduction and convection, for those who did thermodynamics, to retain heat. And so actually this thing stays warm pretty much all day. So I'm doing this in the morning. I'm in Toronto right now. I'm gonna cook this in the morning right now. I'm gonna set this in, have it boil so that the heat's retained, and then drop it into the pot here so that it continues cooking in the heat itself. And so this is the equipment I'm using today. All right, so what I'm gonna do is actually start prepping this. So I will show you how this is done. You're not gonna see the whole soup today because it's gonna stay in the pot until this afternoon before service. But you're gonna see me prepare it and then put it in the pot, and then I'm gonna say bye-bye, okay? So this is basically the soup pot that I'm using. This is, I think, 6 or 8 liters. It's quite large. Today I'm only doing half a portion. And so what I'm gonna do is put cold water in here and start boiling that. Where in Toronto did you guys go? I think you guys go with your little sis? Maybe. I went to St. Elizabeth, for those who want to know. All right, I'm gonna add water to this and start boiling this. So just give me 2 seconds while I add that. Okay, that's going in. The other tip, if you can hear me, about the ingredients, get that bill. Soup bag. Okay, so for those that are curious about what this is and why I'm using it, soup water is almost done. Wait. Okay, there, it's done. So I'm going to, because I'm like super efficient and I like to do things sequentially, that OCD structured part of me, I've got this blanching, which is my pork bones blanching. I'm gonna get my soup boiling, because what happens is the trick is to add the ingredients to boiling water for the Chinese soup. All right, so that's blanching, more prep. All right, for those also who are using a lot of beans, small ingredients, my kids, when they see stuff floating around the soup, they don't want to drink it. It's always suspicious, like, what is that? What's floating around? And so one of the tips that I do now, and I used to be like that as a kid as well, is use soup bags. And so you can get them on Amazon or Temu as well. They're super cheap. I will wash these and like boil them ahead of time. But what you do then is actually essentially just drop all your ingredients into this little baggie, and it retains all of it together. So one, cleaning is super easy. So you just fish it out. You can throw it out and rewash and reuse these, which is amazing. So I such lazy today. I'm not going to pan fry my octopus, though you could. So the lazy like soup, and I've kind of mastered the efficiency of Chinese soups because I do so much of it, is just using soup bags for all my tiny ingredients. And therefore it's not running around wild in my soup, and it's easy to clean afterwards. So you just pull the whole bag out. So I will use this for fish bones, anything with small parts that are really hard to fish out. And so, okay, so what I'm gonna do is just drop all my ingredients in today and then add extras. I'm going to add barley, so the barley actually I might not add to the soup bag because my daughter loves eating it. And so that helps. And then the other thing I'm going to add today is peanuts. So anyone who doesn't want to use meats, so the meats in today's soup is octopus and pork bones. And so if you don't want meats, peanuts and mushrooms, those are your great replacements for Chinese soups. And they can be used for both warming and cooling soups together. So if you don't want to use chicken or pork or fish or any seafood, mushrooms are amazing as the umami flavor. Peanuts are also great. Peanuts, chestnuts, cashews, anything roasted. All right, that's blanching. See, here's the thing, like the problem with two devices is I can't really bring you to it. Why do you have purple eyebrows, girl? Do I? Yeah, maybe I gotta redo them, but thank you for calling that out. All right, so this is blanching, and I blanch it in cold water for those who are joining. This is the pork bones. And so, again, as soon as it comes to a boil, that's perfect, right, for the pork bones. This is boiling. All right, I'm going to prepare this first, so let me show you how I do this. Really simply, all your herbs, any of your ingredients, just drop it into a soup bag like this. Oh, and that stuff that's coming out is the pea protein, which is the extra protein tofu that's added if you want more protein in your soup. And then the other thing I'm going to add is barley and peanuts, which the kids like to eat, so I'm going to add that separately. All right, so tip of the day, use a soup bag. If you want to be quicker in your cleaning and you don't want like random stuff floating around your soup for your kids to find and say, what is that? All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do my corn. And it's, I know it's, you just say, you're just cutting corn. I'm not just cutting corn, okay? There is a technique here, let me show you. The butcher's knife. This is what you'll need. This is your one tool. All right, and so you don't, when they have like really small thin pieces of corn, and I'm gonna bring this down for you to see. So the first thing for me is really just have it like that, easy, but it's like, it also sprays. And so the one thing that I don't like about doing corn is if you're chopping it, the juices do go everywhere, unless you're wearing an apron or you're really cool about it. So I'm gonna turn the cameras down so you can kind of see the technique that I use, and my mom taught me this, which is super cool. All right, so you guys are all coming down to look at how I do the corn. So essentially, saving all the silk still, what you wanna do is take the back end of your cleaver, and I'm saying cleaver is really the way to go. And actually the first thing you wanna do is just find a spot. So for example, I'm gonna make like little bit smaller pieces. And this is quite cool because the kids can just take out the small piece and nibble. And you actually, all you want to do is with the corner end, take it in like this, like that, and pull it apart, right? Like literally, it just pops out like that. So one, you don't need a lot of force. And two, you can control the size of your corn, right? And so previously I used to hit it like this. And from a physics perspective, we're gonna take the corner and it goes a little bit deeper into a section where you can just pull it out. Oh, isn't that amazing? And so this is just a tip that my mom's taught me about how to cut corn, like that. And the corn just pries apart, which is super awesome. So this is how I do my corn, really small. I do bigger pieces. And the reason I also do them this small, by the way, for those who are joining, is because when I do soup packs, it's like puzzle pieces. So I create soup packs as well. And I need to fit them around. And so that's kind of why. So just let me finish the rest up. There is some bit of flying juice though on this one. Okay, there. Like that. Okay, one more. Oh, that's one of the reasons why I don't like doing corn. Okay, one more. There we go, come on. Where are you? Oh, okay. It's kind of coming. All right, there, done. All right, sorry about that. See, not perfect, but it does work to a certain extent. All right, so that's kind of do my corn. Let me put it into my bin here, and then you can watch. Oh, let me talk about this. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off the stove and just show you what I'm talking about. So you can see, let's put this here, should be okay. Oopsies, this one. All right, so you can see how there's foam on the bones. And this is the one reason why I do blanch my pork bones, is because this is all the stuff that comes out and I don't want this in my soup. And so what I'm gonna do now is, you just stay there, is I'm gonna pour this out and I'm gonna rinse it a few times with warm water. And so that's what I'm gonna do now, just directly into the sink. Wait 1 second. And so the idea is look, eventually, like, you do want cleaner bones in the soup. And so that's really what I'm doing now. So I blanched it in cold water so that I can remove the debris, the bones, the blood, the foam. And the more bones there is, the more foam there is. So pork shank actually has a lot less foam. Hold on 1 second while I rinse this. Okay. And then you'll notice it's a little bit cleaner. So let me take it out just for you. And so this is, when you're doing Chinese soups, actually pork bones. Okay, sorry, I just got to turn up all the cameras. I can buy whatever's on sale, okay? So, oops, oh, hold on 1 second. TikTok keeps falling on me. Okay, so I do just buy whatever's on sale. There's no particular thought necessarily about, oh, I have to get a particular type of bone, unless you really want to. For example, ribs. All right, that's boiling. So for those who just joined, I've just blanched my pork bones in cold water. And what I'm gonna do is actually preserve half of them. I'm not going to use everything today. And so economies of scale, just trying to fix the camera angles here. Economies of scale, prepare what you need. You're gonna blanch it anyway, right? And so what I will do is preserve half, wrap, and freeze. And then the next time I make soup, I'm not gonna blanch or anything. I'll just take it out and actually drop it directly into boiling water. That's the best thing about economies of scale here. All right, so my pork bones are done, and I've washed them and rinsed them in warm water after blanching. And again, they don't have to be, like, by the time it boils, it is fully cooked, which is fine. All right, let me move this here. And I'm going to wash my board really quickly from the corn. And then I'm going to show you how to prepare the fuzzy melon. Okay, so I've got my corn done. I've got the bones done. I've got the herbs done. The last thing is going to be the fuzzy melon. So again, for those joining, I'm doing a detox soup today. And my soup pot is boiling right here. And the detox soup essentially is to dispel dampness. Sorry, 1 second. Getting a bit warm. So it's to dispel dampness. And what dispelling dampness means is really just getting rid of toxins, damp water that's been retained in the body. This tends to happen in humid conditions, but again, it can also happen in the winter. And the one reason I know I'm damp, for those who are really curious, is one really easy way to test this is to, if you scrape, use either a metal spoon or a scraper, is to scrape, just have someone scrape your back. And so I did cupping maybe about like 5 days ago, and right away, all the blood came to the surface. And so if you get red right away with the red dots, that's really a good indication that your body's retaining a lot of water or a lot of dampness. Also, swollen hands and feet is another one. The other thing that my traditional Chinese medicine doctor, who I do see regularly, said is when my feet are really cold, my qi is really weak. So my energy source is not really good. So I've been kind of replenishing that as well. All right, so with damp eliminating soups, melons are your friends. Melons are cooling and reduce dampness and pair really well with beans. And so beans is definitely a great Chinese herb that you want to add when you are making damp soups. All right, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to prepare this melon and what this melon is. For those who've not seen this before, this is called a fuzzy melon. Oddly enough on Google, fuzzy melon also comes up with like winter melon, which I'm like, no. Fuzzy melon is very different from a winter melon. It's smaller, it's fuzzy and prickly. In Cantonese, it's called zi gua. So let me show you what it looks like. It's actually just a giant melon that's all complete like this. And for these ones, I don't take off the skin. And so what happens is a corn cutting technique. Oh yeah, that was finished. Okay. And so what this is basically another type of melon. That's the seeds we actually keep as well, right? So some of the melons, I will remove the seeds. Winter melon for sure. But for these ones, I'm just gonna keep it all like this. And this is really easy. It's really funny because I kind of see this as a big zucchini. And so size you want to cut it, completely up to you. I mean, I'm just going to do this quite large today, like that, okay? And these melons are really, this is a really soft melon. Other melons that I will keep the seeds on, like chayotes, all right. And I will eat this. And so in my recent post, I talk about how I will eat the soup like a meal. So literally, I'm going to show you the pork bones. This is a pork backbone. And so there's like all this meat still, right? And so the amazing thing about Chinese soups is that if you're willing and want to have the protein, the vegetables, everything is kind of like a self-contained meal in a pot. And so I do encourage, if you can and would like, to eat all the ingredients as well. And so that's really kind of like partial dinner. All right. So this is the one fuzzy melon that's going. And I'm going to show you what's happening with the soup so that you can see. All right, everything goes in here. Okay, so last little bits before I explain what's happening. We're almost done actually. And this is really how quickly it takes to prepare a Chinese soup if there's not a lot of pre-work. Yeah, I know blanching takes a bit of time, but preparing, putting everything in a soup bag, right? This is just, you just dump it all in. And when you clean and eat, this is kind of out of the way. And so I do suggest, what's that melon called again? It's called fuzzy melon. In Cantonese, it's called jigua. I'll post it later on the name, but I saw other names in the supermarket, but it is a fuzzy melon. You can grow it yourself as well. And so some tips happening now is I've got my soup boiling. I can almost hear it ready. Is use a soup bag. Everything goes in here, except for me today, the barley is going to go separate. And that's because my daughter likes eating the barley, so I want to be able to fish it out. The peanuts are going to be separate as well because I also like eating the peanuts. But everything else here, I'm not going to eat today. How long do you blanch the pork bones for? Honestly, as I put it in cold water first. And so the whole reason we put it in cold water first is so that the water-soluble pieces can dissolve out rather than flash cook in when you do it in boiling water. And so the idea is as soon as it comes to a boil, I turn off the heat, and that's it. And so there's really no gauge on how long you have to blanch your bones for, because at the end, whether it's fully cooked or not, it doesn't matter, because for me, I know it's going directly back into the soup, a boiling soup water. And so that's really just my tip. As soon as I see that there's foam that's come to the top, and you're gonna see a lot of like brown foam. It's amazing how much foam comes out of pork bones. As soon as you see that brown stuff coming out of your pork bones, you can turn off the heat, drain in your sink, and rinse with warm water. And so warm or coolish water. And so that really will get of all the extra bones, all the foam's gonna come out, all the blood, all the yucky stuff, right? And then what you're putting into your soup is a little more clean bones. So that's really what I'm gonna do now. Okay, so you can come closer. Oh, see, that's Instagram going. And this is where I got to figure out how to do like multi-devices. Okay, TikTok can come forward now. Just like this multi-device thing. I don't know how people do it. And I know there's an app that can do like multi-streaming, blah, blah, blah. I haven't figured it out yet, but I will. All right, so what's going to happen now? For those who are curious what's going on, I prepared everything. It's really quick. Now it's 9:30. It takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to prepare everything, so it's not long. What I'm gonna do now is put everything into my soup, which is right here, it's boiling. That's the blanching when we're done. I'm gonna drop everything directly into boiling water. This is the best. You wanna give boiling water, put everything in, and let it boil for 30 minutes. And as soon as it's really boiled and had a happy time together, all the ingredients are like chilling, mixing, getting to know each other, what I'm gonna do is put it into the thermal pot over there. And the thermal pot is actually an interesting technology that comes out of Japan. It's got a thermal insulated external piece, and the pot goes directly in. I will show you. And the whole point of that is that it continues to retain its energy and heat for the duration of the day. So this is perfect because in this way, I don't need additional stovetop electricity. I don't need to look at it. I don't need to watch it. And when I come back, it's pretty much cooked. And so this is the great thing about the thermopot technology. It's very Asian. You can get them in Asian supermarkets in North America. I was given a Chinese melon or a squash that looks like a bell. Could you use it in soup? Do you know what it looks like? If you have a picture, send it to me. The only one that I think of a melon that looks like a bell is a chayote. It's like this. It's got a fat bottom, looks like a pear kind of, and it's green. And so actually any melon or squashes in this point are in the same family from a Chinese soup perspective or Chinese medicine perspective, is actually very cooling and helps push out water. It's a diuretic. And so pair melons with any beans. Have a go at it. Beans, barley are perfect for pairing with melon. So you can't really go wrong with that combination. So that's what I suggest. I'm thinking it's going to be the chayote. Mom's right. That they gave you, but take a picture, send it to me. I'm happy to tell you what kind of melon it is. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so this, I'm going to turn back up, and the soup's kind of come to a boil, which is perfect. And you want your soup water to be boiling when you put all your ingredients in. And so what I'm putting in today, for those who've just joined, I'm doing a detox soup. Ta-da, okay, detox from Super Well. So the great thing about these pre-packed things is that you don't have to buy the ingredients and you kind of just go with it. The one challenge with buying ingredients for Chinese soups is that the packs can be quite large. And if you're not sure what it is, what to use it for, when to use it next time, then these pre-packages are perfect because essentially it's just like a one-off use. And so what I'm doing now is my soup's boiling again, which is I'm doing a half a pot today. So half portion for me, which will serve about 4 people, about 1 to 1.5 bowls each. And so I have like this giant pot of pork bones, which I'm only going to use half. The rest I'm going to freeze. And so because they've been pre-blanched, the next time I make a Chinese soup, essentially take it out of my freezer and just drop it into boiling water, okay? Directly, there's no defrost needed. So I'm gonna drop in my bones first, about half of them. And I wish you could see, I don't know how to do this with the live, so people can see multiple angles. It's different when I'm filming. Okay, so that's about half the bones. I will bring you over. So what I used to do is bring the camera over. I will actually, you know what? Okay, so the reason I'm struggling today, which is a fascinating experiment, is I've got both Instagram and TikTok live going at the same time on 2 different devices, which is why I'm kind of like looking back and forth. So I'm going to bring you over slowly, each of you, so that you can see what I'm doing into the pot. Okay, just wait. All right, so Instagram's going first. There you go. And then now TikTok can go, so you can see that's my tiny device. And I don't know how I'm going to do this because this angle is kind of weird. Okay, here. There, you can see my soup now. Great. Okay, so the pork's in there, and then what I'm going to drop is the rest of the melons. And I do keep the skin on. Actually, this is a really big melon. I do keep the skin on for most of my melons, by the way, except radishes. Radishes are the ones that you do need to peel if you want to eat it because the skin really does not soften. So that's going in. And then for those who were here, I cut my corn really small, right? And that's going in too, just like that. In you go. And you know, remember I said I make half a pot. Look, it's actually almost a full pot. And the additional things I'm adding, I talked about, is barley. So 1 second while I get a spoon. Okay. So because my daughter likes eating barley directly, I'm going to have it in the soup, and I'm just going to probably put about 2 tablespoons like this. Barley is amazing for pushing out dampness in the body. It is cooling. And then the other thing that my children really like to eat are peanuts. They love peanuts in soups. And these are unsalted, like this, but prepared like that. Just drop it in here. And so all the ingredients, and peanuts are a little bit warmer and not quite diuretic, but that's okay. Okay, And I think that's, oh, the last thing. And so this is the last thing I do put in. Make sure you tie it so that the ingredients don't come out. So what I've got in here are all the beans. And I'm sorry if I can't see your questions right now. Chinese soup melon with beans, yeah. So in here, I've got all the dates, all the beans, just so that I can clean it really easily and I can fish it out. So that's going in. So this bag has been boiled and washed for those who are just curious about how I do this. Okay, and essentially, make sure everything's in like that. And that's it. I mean, that's how you make Chinese soup. All right, I'm gonna bring you guys back over so you can kind of see. Sorry. Fascinating, this dual device thing. All right, so that's cooking, and then I'm gonna show you what's gonna happen with the thermal pot really quickly. Let me bring Instagram over too. All right, so both of you guys, TikTok and Instagram. All right, so what's gonna happen now, essentially, I'm actually done. The process takes about, for me to prepare from scratch into the soup, about 15 to 20 minutes, including the blanching. And so it's pretty quick. And so what's gonna happen now at this point is that while the soup's boiling, I'm gonna show you the pot and how it works. So for those who are curious about the rest of the process today, I'm actually finished preparing the soup. You're not gonna sit here and watch me make the rest of the soup because it's gonna be boiling. So this soup right there is gonna be boiling for about another 30 minutes. And the whole point of the boiling here is that it mixes all the ingredients together. Essentially though, the key thing from a technical perspective is to make sure that the heat is in the pot. And so the idea is then afterwards, 30 minutes, I'm gonna put it in here. And this is my thermal pot. Look. So the thermal pot is actually, oddly enough, it's very simple technology. It's got an external insulated piece right here, and the top's also insulated, so you see how thick this is. And so the idea of this technology is that it's actually heat retention. So I love that there's a lot of thermodynamics going on around here. And so the idea is that, yeah, you put as much heat as you want. So boiling, have your pot on boiling, full boil. Drop it into your thermal pot, cover it, and walk away. And so the idea is that this heat retention is actually continuously cooking, even though I don't need heat or energy, because the heat is retained, right? It's retained within the pot, which is amazing. And so I'm doing my soup in the morning, which I typically make. And about, so it's like 9-ish. So about noon, 1 o'clock, I'll come back and check on it, and it's pretty done, right? And by that time, it's drinkable. And so for those who actually just want something that's easy, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to watch it, and you're busy for the day. Make it in the morning, go about your day, come back, and you actually have soup done for your evening meal. And so that's it for today. For people who are joining, today I will post like the full thing on YouTube. And today I was just basically making and someone said it on Instagram, it's like a melon detox soup. And detox soups is perfect for weathers in Toronto right now where it's raining and humid. And so I also have a lot of dampness in the body. And so that's really going to get rid of the dampness in my body, which includes toxins, water, bloating. All right. Any questions before I head out? Let my soup boil and then drop it into the pot. I will do the full video so that you can watch it afterwards for those who just like to fast forward. But thank you, TikTok. Thank you, Instagram, for joining. I'm going to stay behind like 1 more minute if you have any questions about the ingredients I use, the herbs that I'm using, Chinese soup specifically, how to prep, how to blanch, anything. But thank you guys for joining. All right, I will see you next time, and I will do the full post of what the soup looks like afterwards. All right, thanks guys, bye. All right, let's see how we turn this off. See, here we go again, this issue with, I know how to start it, I don't know how to stop it. And now. Okay, so that was TikTok. Now for Instagram. Bye. No. What? What? Oh, might be the X. There. All right. Bye, guys.